Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming and connecting today. Today, we're going to have an awesome guest from Playa del Carmen, Dante. Dante, how are you today?
Hello, Danielle. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. And also thank you for your time and for this space to talk about, real estate investment here in Mexico.
Yes, as everybody knows, if you are new on this channel, welcome. So we thank you to Dante. Dante is a lawyer and specifically connected with the MexLaw, which is a firm connected in Playa del Carmen, which we do lots of working together for pre-sale construction and land development. So I asked Dante some question because most of my clients are going to ask you all these questions about corporate. So when I say, Dante, this is a good time to talk about. So thank you for taking your time so we can guide our clients so they can refer directly to you for any further question. So the objective is to start a corporation. So when a Mexican or a foreign can open a corporation in Mexico.
Okay, so to define when it's viable to open a corporation, I think the first thing that we'd like to clarify, and which is the main question or the most common question we receive is, can I, as a foreigner, without a Mexican residency, without any type of address in Mexico, can I open up a corporation? And the answer to that is yes. There are certain requirements that we need to take care of. However, a foreigner that does not have a Mexican residency, or even that it's not registered as a taxpayer, can indeed open a Mexican corporation. However, something that it's worth knowing in advance, it's the fact that here in Mexico, for a foreigner specifically that does not have a residency and a Mexican tax ID, he would be needing a second shareholder. The thing is, we know in lots of foreign countries, they have this figure on which legal entities can be created with a sole owner. Here in Mexico, sadly, we're not there yet, but eventually I hope we will. But for the moment, we need at the very least 2 shareholders. The second one can be, let's say, a symbolic shareholder with just 1% to comply with these requirements, but we need at the very least 2 shareholders. That's one thing that we would have to have in mind. Another aspect or relevant aspect would be the activities that the company will be doing. This because foreign investment, it's regulated in Mexico through the Mexican foreign investment law. There are certain activities that do require a special percentage of investment by Mexican ownership. However, related to the purpose of our meeting, real estate business, it's not regulated with this specific percentage of Mexican investment. So the idea of this, it's for ownership or foreign investment on 100% can proceed with real estate investment, purchasing properties, selling properties, listing them on digital platforms, or even developing on maybe some lots or some lands.
Yeah, so most of the time we have this specific topic. Can I open? How many shares do I need? And stuff like that. What's the process? What's the time? What's the cost? So, and that is why it's always important to have a good team as a base to start. So then you can align all these step by step and put together. So then as a project management, you know what and when you have to invest, send the money and open the account and so forth. So it's always good to have the right and correct knowledge. So now we say, let's say I'm going to open this corporation. Okay, what's the time frame to do that?
What's the time frame to do that? Sincerely, at MexLaw, we try to have, or we have this process on which we try to do everything on an expedited matter. So as for the moment we have all documents, then we can proceed to sign the documents of the, or to create the Mexican legal entity on the following, let's say 3 to 5 days. That's our record. We've had even some other time on which, yeah, it's a really good time frame, I dare to say. But yeah, that's a time frame that we can manage. However, this depends mainly on the documents that we would be needing. And that's also something that's worth talking about, which is, do I, as a foreigner trying to invest in a Mexican legal entity, do I have to go down to Mexico to sign anything, to do anything? The answer would be relative, because even though we do need the physical presence of the shareholder to sign the documents, at least of the Mexican legal entity, if he did not have the chance, he or she did not have the chance to come down to sign, he or she can always grant a power of attorney to us back in the country where he or she's staying, and that way we can sign the documents for them. So that's part of the documents that we would be needing, depending on the case or on the context of the client. So once we have all documents necessary, which could be a passport or POAs, then on the following 3 to 5 days, we can start signing the documents of the Mexican legal entity.
Okay, that's awesome. 3 to 5 days, it's awesome. Because I remember in 2011, I did a corporation, but I know back then it was completely different. Also, it's been changed, as you know, and I had my wife, another person for the shareholder. It took some more than 3 to 5 days. But anyhow, I'm very happy for that. Very good. So then say, okay, I need 3 to 5 days, let's say maybe 2 weeks from the time I'm going to send you all the information, you guys elaborate, and then the type of processes go forward. So what's going on after? The next question usually is, can I open a bank account?
That is a great question. Actually, that's something that we also work at MexLaw, because even if a Mexican legal entity can have 100% foreign investment with no Mexican tax ID registration, one requirement is to have at least one legal representative who has indeed an RFC and electronic signature, or e-firma, how we call it here in Mexico, of its own. So to that specific item, yep.
Let's say for the people that don't know, what does that mean, RFC?
The RFC, thank you for the clarification. The RFC, it's the Mexican tax ID, the equivalent to maybe in Canada, the business number or the employer identification number back in the US. So it's the equivalent to that. Here in Mexico, to operate, you need an RFC, which is Registro Federal de Contribuyentes. So we just call it by the initials. Now, this registration, it's done after signing the documents of the Mexican legal entity before tax authorities, okay? Right now, we have this issue in regards to registration, mainly because of how it is, how's the governmental part on that aspect, because they're the ones releasing appointments. However, at MexLaw, we have an advantage, which is we work with a notary public that can assist us with the registration of the RFC on the following 15 to 20 days after creating the Mexican legal entity. So this gives us a lot of advantage, considering that the time frame to wait for an appointment, it's a little bit uncertain. So that's something also worth knowing. And circling a little bit back to the opening of a corporate bank account, the advantage, at least of having a Mexican legal entity, is that if you have this legal representative with an RFC or Mexican tax ID and electronic signature of its own, this person can assist you to open the corporate bank account. At MexLaw, we act as legal representatives of your company, so that way we can assist our clients to comply with this requirement. They do not have to look for maybe someone in Mexico with an RFC and electronic signature. We can assist with that service as well. And that's actually also another advantage. And this service specifically, actually, this is provided by our sister company, MexTax. They're the ones who also can assist our clients with the accountings of the company and also with the opening of a corporate bank accounts. At MexTax, we have accountants and tax specialists that can easily try to assist our clients with their needs, also in English and Spanish, depending on the situation of the client. But the opening of a corporate bank account, summarizing a little bit, a lot of information, it depends mainly on having one legal representative with a valid RFC, and two, for this person to go and file the documentation with the bank.
Okay. So far we already had, intention to open a corporation. We have the documentation. You guys can open the bank account. So now is the fun part. So now open the corporation. I'm going to invest. So obviously, for people they want to invest, and specifically right now in the Riviera Maya, they're looking to buy in anyhow, because also we're running, unfortunately, in kind of a situation it's called inflation. And so Canadians and Americans and other people from the rest of the world, they try to reinvest the money in a certain way. So open account is one of the key to move around. And also there is also the other advantage that the people, they can move probably the cryptocurrency or any Bitcoins through the bank account and so on. I don't know, you guys are working with cryptocurrency as well, but I believe it's also another entity to help people to move the money safely and invest in a certain way.
Sure. Actually, when it comes to cryptocurrency, that's something that it's quite new to Mexican law regulations. So far, Mexican regulations have not been discussed in regards to cryptocurrency regulation. However, I know that eventually we will get to a firm law that states how would we be managing cryptocurrencies. So far, we do not have much of that yet. However, we've seen even some real estate transactions with cryptocurrencies. Our corporate and real estate department coordinated that transaction. It went smoothly, so it was something a little bit complicated, considering that we do not have yet this regulation, yet it was possible with this occasion.
Yeah, I don't know other country. I know more about Canada, US, some other countries in the rest of the world. A little bit Mexico too, because recently we started to do some transaction as well. So there's a third party that will exchange the currency in US dollars in the bank account directly. So when they arrive in the bank account, it's already US dollars basically. Okay, that's to simplify in somehow. Okay, so now what most of the investors usually, in the state in Canada, most of the time is the same thing, because who start to invest also have to be connected with the good account they know about investment, because most of the time people don't want to pay lots of taxes and stuff like that, right? So the first things that they say, okay, so I want to open a corporation because, I already invest over a certain amount of money in Canada or in US. So what about in Mexico? There is a limit that you suggest that the people have to invest in order to benefit for the open account as a corporate or not?
A specific amount to invest, I could not tell, because it mainly depends on the strategy that the client will have. Sometimes the client, it's an operation that will start really hard. We've seen that. So initially, we've seen the clients funding the bank account of the company for maybe $1 million or a million pesos or $500,000 pesos. So that could be as maybe an idea. Yet this much depends on what will be the purpose or the strategy that will want to be applied to the company. Because it's mainly related to that. If we're talking about maybe a real estate property that has been already developed, that's ready to be used, then we can maybe start maybe a little slow. Yet if we're talking about developing on a land, then the situation changes. So it'll mainly depend on that.
Right, because that's the same concept I believe in everywhere in the world, right? So the accountant will say the same thing. So what's your objective and how you see yourself in 3 to 5 years in terms of investment? Because when we talk about multifamily, because right now there is also lots of divergence from US and Canada try to do multifamily, building a boutique hotel in Tulum, Playa del Carmen, because they see the advantage. So we talk about already 20, 30, 40 unit, not just one unit. So that is already upscale. And obviously we talk about at least $2-3 million US.
Yeah, it depends mainly indeed in the type of the project or the magnitude of the project. If we're talking maybe I've seen clients who develop maybe 4-6 villas. It's a small project in a certain way, and the investment it's a little less now. However, one of the advantages, as you say, of the Mexican or investing through a Mexican legal entity would be the deductible expenses. Through the Mexican legal entity, all those expenses that you will need or you would be needing to manage, to administrate, to take care of the property, that's something that can be applied when it comes to profit. And obviously, therefore, when every time we talk profit, we talk taxes. So that's also something that's worth having in mind.
Right, and that's of course will be follow up, and the next question will be the advantage and disadvantage to have a corporate, right, in Mexico. Sure. Yeah, because also it doesn't matter if they are from Canada or from the state, right? They always try to probably open a bank account in both countries and then move the money around, and then in each country they try to understand, because all the 3 countries they talk with each other, we know right now, And so we have to declare the money that comes in from a rental income for investment purpose.
Of course, that tax treatment, when it comes to flow of fundings or flow of money between companies here in Mexico, or even the shareholders, which are indeed in US and Canada, that's something that must be discussed according to what will be done. Because if you want to maybe put money in the Mexican corporation, of course you can. You're a shareholder. The idea is to invest and to fund the company. Yet there's specific ways to do that to avoid mainly what we call misunderstandings with tax authorities. Because generally speaking, everywhere in the world, whenever you receive income, tax will say, "Oh, that's income. That's income, therefore you pay taxes." So when it comes to this specific scenario, we're talking about, well, it's not income.
Yeah.
It's not income. It's an investment that I'm doing to my company to, well, operate. So that there's way to have those type of treatments to avoid any misunderstandings. And mainly, and the most important part, is to have all the legal background that can sustain the operations that we're working on. That's just a part. Now,
Yeah.
In regards to the benefits and disadvantage of a Mexican legal entity. The advantage is that, as we have already been discussing, you can make deductibles a lot of expenses. As a foreigner, you will be able to purchase basically as many properties as you'd like. Because we have this other way to acquire real estate property as a foreigner, which is the bank trust. With the bank trust, you need to open one bank trust per each property. Now, with the Mexican company, you can purchase as many properties as you want. And not only that, you can also be in compliance with tax regulations, because here in Mexico, that's something that we must take care about. And specifically when we talk about, for instance, vacational rentals, digital platforms were regulated not so long ago. We were talking about an amendment that was made on 2020. So that's when everything starts migrating from bank trust to legal entities. So this is another advantage, mainly being in tax compliance, being able to have a tax strategy on how would this work on your expenses, on your deductible, also your deductible expenses, on your income, to have a quite clear picture on how could this be projected. So that's one advantage, or at least several, I think I just mentioned.
Yeah.
The other one would be mainly having the benefit of the liability, because when you're acting through a company, well, there's a certain protection that you have, as the company is the one acting on business here in Mexico, not you directly, let's say. So there's when we talk about a little bit matters about protecting the shareholder or the investor through the Mexican legal entity, that would be another advantage. So that would be, at least summarizing a little bit, one of the many advantages we could think of. I could say on my top three, those I just mentioned. Now, about the disadvantages, I would say that when it comes to Mexican legal entities to investing, it's always a risk. So as you've already mentioned about this, which is inflation. We never know what will happen with the market tomorrow. So that's something that will also impact on the legal entity. We're talking about a legal entity must comply with tax obligations, which are filing monthly and annual declarations, regardless if there's any income. So that's an expense that you must consider, the fact that you will have to be paying accountings for the company, and also the fact that you never know what will happen tomorrow. I mean, 2 years ago, we started a pandemic, and of course, that complicated a little bit business here in Mexico. Yet one good news is that Mexican regulations and even treatment with companies changed after that. We have now worked on certain specific ways to try to avoid having so much issue when it comes to pandemics. So that's something, maybe some other advantage. But yeah, when it comes to disadvantages, I would say that uncertainty on the market could maybe having in mind that you will always have to pay for accountings of the company, and well, the fact that you will always be in a certain way, or the properties will be under the company, not under your personal company. You can always transfer them through the company to you as an individual, let's say, but that's an additional procedure that also implies expenses. So that's something that will be worth considering.
Yeah, you mentioned something important, and I believe that happened also since 2011, if I remember correctly, that some legislation start to change also to help also the foreign to invest more in Mexico, specifically when we talk about Fideicomiso. So people they buy any purchases, rental vacation on the 100 kilometers to the borderline of the water, they have to pay the Fideicomiso trust of 50 years. So in this case, if I open a corporation, do I need to pay the Fideicomiso? Just we talk about that, and people now ask us, do I pay this as well?
No, you don't pay the annual bank trust or fideicomiso fees if you go through a corporation, but
Right.
you instead pay accounting. So it's one for another. When it's an advantage, when we're talking maybe about a project that will give us a lot of profit and that it would be worth having deductible expenses, or if we're talking about several properties under one Mexican legal entity, that's when it's worth going this way. Because if we talk about maybe just one property that you may or may not be renting, then it's better to have it under a bank trust. It's a little bit easier since it'll not imply many, let's say, tax transactions related to that operation. But yeah, if you go through a corporation, you do not have to pay bank trust fees or fideicomiso fees, but you do have to pay accounting. So that'll be the difference, which of course it's an advantage concern that also accounting services are a deductible expense.
Right, because before when I had my corporate, I need to have one Mexican in my corporate. Yeah. Now it's changed. So it can be one from Italy and one from Canada or from.
Also something that we see a lot, it's that clients who are investing on, let's say, a solo project here in Mexico, they happen to have maybe a Canadian legal entity or US legal entity, which are owned by them as individuals or only them. So what we also can work on would be the fact of having him as an individual and his Canadian or US company as a second shareholder. That way, the company is always under his or her administration, under his benefits. So yeah, that's something that it's also an advantage to have that in mind.
Some of my clients invested, they already have a corporate, so they can transfer that name of corporate from there to Mexico.
Yep, foreign corporations can always act as shareholders. The only requirement would be for us to ask on certain specific documentation, but we're talking generic documentation, articles of incorporation, operating agreements, maybe the employer identification number. So certain aspects that they always have. We know that the name varies between between states on one same country, but as long as we can corroborate certain details, a foreign legal entity can act indeed as a shareholder of a Mexican legal entity.
Actually, do you think it would be easier if you have already a corporation in your country, or does it matter?
That depends also on the tax treatment on the country that's on the country of the company, because that's also something that's that we've been seeing a lot here at MexLaw and MexTax, which is managing meetings with clients with the accountant in Mexico and the accountant in Canada, the accountant in the US, mainly trying to have harmony between both countries when it comes to tax aspects. Because when we talk about profits, we're talking about the profit that will come from the Mexican company will go to the US shareholder. So what is better to have me as an individual? Is it better for the money to be received to my personal bank account, to my corporate bank account in the US? So that's something that would also depend on the tax strategy also on the other side.
Yeah, it's kind of similar that for what I know, and I'm not an accountant, of course, in US and Canada, and in terms of taxation and corporation, that kind of stuff. So it's good to have at the beginning you start the corporation and understanding how the money will come in and how the money can get out in order to establish some bottom line. So then the accountant know how to deflect that expense, so then you don't end up to pay more taxes, basically.
And
That
mainly when we're talking about, for instance, USA and Canada taking a little bit advantage of dual taxation treaties. So that's something that it's also worth discussing with the accountant, mainly to see if there's maybe any benefits applicable. So yeah, we also try to work on that as well.
right. I also noticed that, since 2011, because I start to go there since 2008, since a flight easy to arrive there, bought a land in Aldea Zama in Tulum. And we know that since 2016, things start to develop so much in all the Riviera Maya with the pre-construction, and nowadays there are over 450, something like that, pre-construction. It's amazing. So I saw that there is so much change, and I noticed also that in the last 2 years and a half, when COVID started, much more of foreign to go there and they want to buy. So I see that also the Mexican law start to change and help them, the foreign, to go and invest and have a much easier process with documentation. So at this point, I will say to you, probably you saw also more people act and open corporation since COVID happened.
Yeah, actually, this year specifically, investment has grown pretty much. It's you can tell the difference during COVID and after COVID. I could say that at least here in the zone, which would be Quintana Roo specifically, the growth, the economical growth, and the investment, it's going really, really good. As you said, we've seen a lot of people investing, buying properties mainly for economical benefits, not only because we always have clients who mainly just want to retire here at the Caribbean, maybe with some pina coladas, but
Yeah.
some others do look for a profit to invest. So we've seen that indeed it has grown a lot. We've seen a lot of new investors here in Mexico from all over the world, not only America but also in Europe. We've seen a lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is always anywhere in the world there are these needs, like Mexico and this and that, right? But then when they see that it was open country, able to fly there and have the freedom and have your pina colada and working from home, the only need it's the internet basically. And for people they don't know, there is lots of fiber optic in the Riviera. Start from Cancun to Riviera Maya, so people don't need to worry about that, because it's another question usually people ask, do I have internet? How many megabytes I will have, that kind of stuff. So you have as many as you needed. So it's also psychological things that people think about. Mexico, it's a south.
Yeah.
But Mexico is a north country attached to US, and there is Home Depot, Costco, Starbucks, no?
Yeah. Playa del Carmen has grown really, really impressively, I would say. I mean, to be honest, after I was born in Cancun, because back then Playa del Carmen has no hospital, so I've seen how much it has grown myself. So yeah, as you said, there's a lot of commercial of commerce here in Mexico. It's in Playa del Carmen specifically. It's growing a lot. We have a lot of malls. We have a lot of things to do here. So yeah, I think it would definitely, right now, it is a really good time to invest.
Yeah. And I also want to say that in the last 4 or 5 years, there are so much going on with investment, the project that they start to finalize, such as the Mayan train and the new airport in Tulum. So we'll bring more customers, as well as the 5th terminal in Cancun, which is like a London, UK. They have 50, it's impressive. It's impressive. And so the value of the peso has, in compared with the dollars, it's pretty good in the last 10 years or so. For investors, it's always good to think ahead over time. I think we address mostly of the base questions to start a corporation, time frame. What's the cost?
Okay, cost. To create a Mexican legal entity, the cost depends mainly if we're talking about acting as individuals or acting as legal entities. So when we talk about individuals, the cost is for 2,320 US dollars, and when we talk about companies that have a legal entity involved, we're talking about $2,784 US.
Okay. Okay. Pretty manageable. I remind also for people they don't know MexLaw, it's all over the Mexico. It's Mexico in Cancun, in Ciudad de Mexico, Puerto Vallarta.
We also have an office in Mérida and one in Los Cabos.
And Los Cabos, yeah. So all over the place. Pretty soon you guys gonna have another one in Tulum.
Hopefully, yeah, that's something that it's on our radar as well.
It's on the radar, yes. So last question, which I think it's to validate it, and probably you already answered so far very well. Why MexLaw?
Okay, why MexLaw? Mainly because of our logo is the way we act is through international standards. This MexLaw was created in Canada, so the founding shareholders are from Canada as well.
Yeah.
So the idea is to manage that kind of service, because we do not only offer corporate and real estate service, we also try to comply with anything that might be needed. Escrow services, we even have a litigation team, an immigration department. We have our sister company, MexTax, and the idea is to provide a confident legal way for our client to feel safe on his investment, on his personal projects. So that's why I would say MexLaw, it could be definitely a good idea. We always offer our services not only in Spanish, which is the language here in Mexico, but also in English. Some of my colleagues speak French. So the idea is to try to make things smoother for our clients. If they happen to need meetings, phone calls, whatever might be needed, the idea is always to have a client that's informed on the process, on what's needed, on an honest consultation regarding time frame, regarding implications, liabilities, risks. So that's why we would say definitely that we could be the best choice.
I personally say that I'm totally agree, because I've been working with you guys for a long time, so I'm happy with the service. It's also something that I give it back to my client as well, because they end up to say, okay, I want to have a corporation, boom. We don't need just an account and a lawyer to review documentation for the contract to buy pre-construction, but maybe they end up to want a visa. So you guys have also somebody for the visa, and then end up to figure out that they need somebody to pay the taxes. So you guys can help with that. So it's a full package that you guys
exactly
offer. Yeah,
exactly. That's the concept that we try to offer.
Very good, very good. I'm very happy, and I'm thankful for your thoughts, your time. And if anybody has any question, feel free to reach out to me or to him. I will put the email for Dante. And thank you again for your time, and looking forward for the next chapter.
Of course, we also look forward to that. Thank you very much for the time, for the space to talk about this. It's really always important for foreign to know implications, maybe time frame, maybe everything that can affect the financial plan that they have on their investment. So we really appreciate working together, and we of course look forward to another chapter and to keep working with you as well.
Yeah, the main purpose of the channel is to be transparent, so anyone can understand the legality and transparency, and they feel trust, basically, so they can contact us, and then we can give all the guide possible to invest. Thank you, everyone. Hey, see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.